Hey guys, welcome to the Secret Recipe Podcast. I am super excited to give you the ingredients of It's Emily. Like, her story is so amazing. What you've been able to do is so dynamic and inspiring even for people like me. So I'm super excited to tap into it. Tell the audience, for those that don't know you and those that don't know your amazing story, tell us all about you. Like, what is it there to know?
Oh, thank you. I'm so blessed to meet you. You are just a beacon of light, and I'm honored to be on your show here today. And you know, I'm so passionate about the beginning of my journey, because so many people see the glitz, the glam, the big stages, and I'm like, 14 years ago, I was this young girl, 23, in Minnesota, living paycheck to paycheck. I was a nanny, I was a massage therapist. I mean, I hustled, I did anything and everything I could do to make extra money. And I was raised by a single mom with a lot of hardship. And, you know, I just saw her like, just try to make it happen, you know? And so that's what I was doing. And one day I met a woman at the gym at an LA Fitness, and she was living her life by design rather than by default. And what I mean by that is, I met her, we connected, and then we became Facebook friends, and I crept on her. You know what I mean? We start creeping. Yeah. And I was like, wow, like, she actually looks fulfilled. She gets to design her day. She's working from home in her workout clothes, and then she's traveling. And meanwhile, I was like busting my butt, you know, driving, commuting to work, all this. And I'm like, I want to do what she does, but I don't even know what she does. And so after watching her for about 6 months, I just said, hey, will you meet me for coffee? I want to learn what you do. And so this was in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Wow. We meet up. I'm 23, she's 33, and she presents me a business plan, which was with a health and wellness company in the network marketing space. I had no idea what it was. I didn't even care. I just wanted a better life. Yeah. And when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Yes. And that's what happened. Wow. So I dove in, and that first year of working with her and having a mentor, you know, I moved in with her. I had a mattress. What? Yes, I had a mattress on the floor. Like, I had this Jimmy rigged bedroom. I made myself my first vision board. Wow. And I just promised myself, like, I'm gonna change my life. I'm gonna change my family's life. Like, I'm gonna go all in and just sacrifice time of, you know, going out with friends, things like that, for a better life. And so I did that for almost 2 years and created a huge foundation for my life, and then became a 7-figure earner by the time I was 26. What? Yeah.
With the same company?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was a certain level of commitment, right? When you committed to saying you want your life to be much better.
Yeah.
How did that work? Like, most people miss out on that moment, that piece. Yeah,
a gift that I have is being a visionary. I believe we all have giftings from God, and mine definite is vision. And with that being said, I looked at playing the infinite game, knowing this is not gonna be an overnight thing, and I'm just committed to bettering myself, learning the skills that it takes. For me, my financial blueprint, not coming from money. We came from hand-me-down clothes, food stamps at one point when I was a little girl. Like, so I had to really go to work on my self-worth, you know, really rewiring my brain and doing what it takes to build an actual team. And so the commitment thing for me is like, okay, hell or high water, I'm doing this. Yes. Whether it takes me 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, I'm committed. And that alone, you're gonna outwin a lot of people.
Wow, that's a gem right there, commitment. And then after commitment, what did you do?
The discipline of learning skills. And a lot of people don't talk about skills as much as they should. Me and my partner in life were very passionate about teaching people legitimate skills. Language to use, charisma cues, becoming more confident in sales, in how you show up with your brand on social media, like little tips and tricks along the way. I had to really learn sales, how to ask for the close.
Yes.
I'm like, I don't want to do the big pack. I'd rather go for the small one, because what if they don't have money? I made up stories all the time. And so learning the skills, even how to set an appointment. And, you know, how does someone reach out to someone with posture and get someone to actually listen to their message, first of all. Second of all, give them the time of day and trust them enough to get on a Zoom or go to a meeting. I mean, those kind of things, they take legitimate skills. And then presenting with prestige, speaking with prestige, how do you do that? And so, you know, I always say, like, your 10,000 reps. Like, you know, I would just sit in my car before the meetings and I would go through, like, okay, what's the flow of the meeting? How am I going to end it? You know, and then after you're in your head so long, you realize I need to be in my heart more. And so I'm like, I really, like, yeah, this is all factual, great stuff, but I just need to connect with a human. And what does that even look like? And so learning the skills. Huge.
I think so many people miss out on those 2 points. First, committing, and then having the skills. Once you've committed to something, a lot of people just jump in and say, oh, I want to start a business, and I'm going to go on TikTok, and I'm going to find a vendor, but then don't know how to speak to the vendor, don't know how to, you know, order the products. When they get the products, they don't know, have the skills on how to handle customer service. So you touched on 2 points, and now that you are 26 years old and you've made 7 figures, what did you do? How did you handle it? Coming from someone that didn't have money and now you have money, how did that change your life?
You know, I respect money, and, you know, I'm somebody, because I've had none at times, I feel like because I had to work so hard to get here, I value it so much more. You know, and I think that's the difference between someone handing you something versus, like, no, I had to be scrappy. I still got to be scrappy, you know what I mean? Like, and so definitely respecting it. But the thing is, it's like, you know, you don't know what you don't KNOW. And so learning different tax strategies and different things to do with the money, like, all that stuff didn't come natural, because, you know, it takes a while to get momentum. Like, you're grinding, and then sometimes you get it, and it starts to go fast. And it went faster than me at one point, where it was like, okay, I'm on a plane, I'm going to Europe, opening this country, you know, I'm going to South Korea, doing this, and suddenly it's like I'm in, you know, Cambodia doing a meeting even, and it's like my life moved really fast, and I didn't stop to, like, take a pause and analyze what was going on. And if I would have done that, I really do feel like I would have enjoyed it more. But it's one of those things where it's just life lessons, you know, where I was just going. And I did get to this point at a young age where I was like, is Emily happy though? And what I mean by that is, like, I was happy serving people, but I didn't have anybody super close to me that I felt like I was growing with, that I was growing in love with. Like, I felt like I was the leader, but I didn't have people pouring into me.
That's so deep. Oh my goodness.
It's honest, you know.
And the crazy thing about it is that you experienced that at 26. I experienced that at 35, right? Like, my life has been a run, like, literally running. I started a clothing business, ran, made millions. Then I got fired from my company, and then going on to starting a marketing agency, running. That has become super successful. That hits double-digit millions. And so now I'm serving all of these people, and it wasn't until last year when I had 40 employees to pay every week, and 40 employees problems, and 40 employees in my office, and 40 employees, like, and it was a lot. And when I sat down and I brought in, like, an operations company to, like, help me restructure my operations, and she said, okay, at the end of this process, you'll be on a beach somewhere with your daughter chilling. What would you do? If everything in your life was running smoothly, if the business was running smoothly, what would you do? And it made me sit back, and my answer was, and she's like, oh, you run into another millionaire at the beach. and she's with her daughter, what would you do? I was like, I would talk to her about her business. And she's like, you would talk to her about her business? You're on the beach with your daughter. And I'm like, yeah, I would want to know, like, how I can help her. Like, I know that there's things that I know that she may not know.
Right.
And that's always my conversations. Like, and I started to realize that I pour into everyone else. And that at that time, there was no one pouring into me. So the conversations that I was having with people that I consider my friends, all of my friends needed me in some way. They needed me for advice or marketing or branding or, you know, it was, and I started to evaluate the conversations that I was having towards the end of the year. And I'm like, oh my God, guys, I need this. Like, I'm in this weird space in life where I want to change. And they're like, girl, you got this. You're the strongest one out of all of us. You're that girl. And I'm like, but what if I'm not though? Like, I started to see that what everybody's happiness looked like for me was not happiness for me. And that's where I started to dig deeper and say, well, what does happiness look like for Mary? What does happiness look like for me? Not what is it perceived for everyone else? Because they're like, you have a multi-million-dollar agency. You're sitting with celebrities. You're at all these events. You travel the world with your family. But is that really happiness for me? You know?
Oh, 100%. I feel you so deeply right now because people perceive us to be some kind of way, which is beautiful, and we're blessed that, you know, I believe we're highly favored. We've worked hard, but we also have the gift of influence on our life. But at the same time, what I learned and what I believe is, like, we, meaning me and you, we always should have people pulling us up, and we should always be reaching down to pull others up. And I think that's the key to life, where for so long I was just pulling others up, but no, I was like, you know, and say, you know, and then, so it's like iron sharpens iron, you know, and so it's like having one or two, you don't need a lot, one or two people that are like slapping you wrong, hey, we could do better at this, or think bigger, or, you know, really just checking you where you need to be checked, and finding, you know, a couple women that you can be, it can be sacred, you can tell deep dark things to, and that's where true healing happens, where when you're leading people constantly, it's like you don't ever get fed. It's so important. And so I actually, like, prayed for that. I wrote out, like, I will attract a couple women in my life. And, you know, that we're all similar. Like, they're making more money than me, if not the same. And it's really helped me a lot.
I think that's so important. Like, even at the end of the year, I was talking to a couple of colleagues, and I was like, I think I need a mentor. Like, someone that's done it before, that's, you know, if my goal is to sell my business, someone that sold their business. And I recently just got a mentor, and it changed my life. And so to hear you say at 23, you found a mentor and that changed your life, it just goes to show how important mentorship is, and having people around you that pour into you, because sometimes you, no matter how much, and I started asking myself at the end of last year, God, why did you make me a server? Like, why did you make me, in my natural ability, servant of other people? Like, I don't care where I am, how glamorous I look. If I see someone needing to be served, I immediately serve them. And I'm like, why did you put this inside of me? Like, where are the people that are going to serve me and pour into me? But I had to change my mindset. And I had to understand that maybe you weren't accepting of people to serve you. So I had to literally prepare myself when I found a mentor to be served.
Girl, I feel this so much. So much. Like, even when I met the love of my life, he was like, let me serve you, let me love you, let me, and I was like, one hand out, one hand up. And I had to really work on that, like allowing myself to get served as well. It's for people that give a lot, it's a whole deal, but, you know, we need it. And once you open that up, you're like, okay, Yes. Okay, serve me, refuel me. I'm like, serve me whatever you want.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But back to the mentor thing, gosh, even today, and I'm 35 here today, like in anything I do, and even on our drive here to meet you, like I was just talking to my partner about this, I'm like, we are resourceful AF. I'm like, if we don't know something, we're just like on it. We're finding somebody in that space that already did it. Can we get on Zoom? Let's talk. And it's like, that has shortened our learning curve so much and has made us go so fast by just being humble enough to go, I don't really know how to do this.
Yes.
Like, who does?
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, I think that that is a big point too, because I think sometimes when you're looked at as an expert in your field, or when you're looked at as like, she knows that, she's been here before, she has it. Like when you looked at as that person, right, you tend to shy away from going out to get advice.
Yeah.
And I remember I was at a conference and I thought myself to almost not go, because I'm so used to being on the stage, I'm so used to being a speaker, on the writer, and have all this stuff. And I was like, do I really need to go there as a student? Like, and are the people in the audience going to be like fanned out, you know, by me sitting there next to them?
Right.
Like, how does that feel? So I found myself to go, and I was like, you know what? I was like, I'm going. And I went. And when I sat with someone that's now about to raise funding, because that's where I'm going into with my co-working space, and I literally sat with her and she was like, okay, what do you know about it? I was like, not much. Tell me everything. And she was asking me about this and like, oh, do you know what what this is? Do you know what this is? And I'm like, I have no idea. So I actually loved being vulnerable to say, I don't know.
Right.
Because when you become an expert, how often are you saying you don't know?
Yeah.
You coach hundreds of thousands of people.
Yeah.
And when they come to you, you either have the answer or you're finding the answer. You're never going to say, oh, I don't know. Like, you hired me to coach, but I don't know.
Right.
Like, you're going to be like, okay, give me a couple of days. I'll get back to you with the answer.
Yeah.
So it's amazing that we can be at this stage and still be vulnerable enough to get mentors or get in the room to get the necessary information.
Yeah. I believe like you need to always be a lifelong student. And I just think if you think you've arrived, you've begun your decline. And
that's so good.
You know,
okay, say that again. Say that again.
If you think you've arrived, you've begun your decline. Like, absolutely. And, you know, I remember hitting a milestone when I was 26 with this whole thing. And it was like, people were like, you're great. What are you going to do now? Go. I'm like, do you think I'm going to go spend my life on the beach? No. I'm like, this is warm up. This is warm up because God has given us unlimited potential.
Yes.
And I'm like, it's up to me to go pay it forward. It's up to me to go live my life out loud to show other people that they can break chains and break generational curses and live their life and their dreams. And, you know, for me, like Tony Robbins talks about your 6 human needs, and mine is growth and contribution. Like that's where I get my happiness from. So I got to be learning something new. And I got to be contributing to people's lives. And if I'm doing that, we are good. You know what I mean? But I absolutely love it because with that mindset, it's like you will always be progressing and you won't be hitting your plateau. You know?
So you speak about God a lot.
I love God.
Me too.
You do? Yes, sisters.
Yes, I do not play about God and God don't play about me.
Same.
So how impactful was building that relationship with God? And at what point did you experience needing to know? Like needing to build the relationship?
Yeah. You know, since I was really little, I had a strange connection to the light.
Wow.
I grew up, I was the youngest of 3, and we would be in this tiny little house, and my mom had a guy live with us that abused her. And so it was just like I would be in the basement and I would try to escape, you know, like it was a very crazy upbringing. But I always had this like, I don't know, angel covering over me, but I didn't know what it was. And a neighbor lady took me when I was like in 1st grade to church, and she came, I'll never forget it. She bought me and my sister dresses, like new dresses with tags on them, and she braided our hair. and she took us to this church, and you know, I didn't have a dad, so that was my first like, oh my gosh, I do have a father who loves me, and it was like this whole thing for me. And then of course you grow up and you go in and out of this, and you try this and try that, but I always kept coming back to going to like a non-denominational church because it just made me feel so empowered, and really, you know, there's been many defining moments, but even in the past few years where I just completely have just leaned in and surrendered, and I'm like, you know, people are like, there's business and then there's God, and I'm like, well, why can't I blend the two?
Yeah.
Because so many women ask me, where do you get your confidence and how are you able to just keep going? And it's because I know that I was knitted together in my mother's womb, and there's no other me and there's no other you.
Yeah.
So why would I compare myself to anybody else when I have complete DNA makeup different than this person? It's an insult to your creator, and I believe that to my core. And I got to get that message out. And so what started to happen is I would start teaching business, and I felt like I was keeping this part out. So it's like, here's all the facts, here's some examples, but I'm not going to tell you the full truth because I don't want to offend. Which is complete BS, because all this stuff is my opinion anyway. So I just decided enough is enough. Like, I'm going to truly show people all of Emily. And that's what I've done. And, you know, it's been a series of occurrences, and but for me, it's like God is number one. Like that, I've just decided that. Like, it's like, direct my footsteps, and I will be obedient to your call in my life. And even a lot of the work I'm doing now, it's like, it's not really because I want to do it, it's because I hear what I'm supposed to do, and I'm just following that call in my life.
That is so good. Because, so I was raised by ministers, right? Like my mom, my mom, so my childhood is a little crazy. I was raised by my mom was a single mom, right? My dad was in jail, he was an activist, and I didn't have a good relationship with my mom. I feel like my mom went through so much trauma, so much childhood trauma on her behalf, and obviously I'm young, so I don't understand what mental health and all of those things is. So she went through so much that we didn't have a good relationship. I felt like she put her own insecurities and her own neglect and her own, you know, just trauma on me. And so we didn't have a good relationship. So eventually my dad gets out of jail. I move to Cleveland, Ohio, and I'm raised by my cousins, which I end up calling my godparents, and they're ministers in the church. So it was like I left one lady who was like, church, you're going to church, to now two people that are like, church. So when I got in college, I'm like, I went through a lot in my life, Emily. Like, a lot. Being homeless. My sister committed suicide my senior year of high school. My first boyfriend got killed in his car. Like, when I tell you I went through a lot of trauma, that when I got to college and I got to experience life on my own as an adult, it made me wonder, like, if God put me through all of this, I don't really need God, because my life is lit now. Like, I'm in college, I'm a music artist, I'm touring, I'm opening up with all these artists, and all these artists think I'm amazing. What did God do for me? Like, what did God do for me? Right? And it wasn't until, so I went through college, I started a business, I made millions of dollars, and I still was kind of like, I mean, I know God is there, but I can't really show how he's working in my life. It was not until I made $4 million with my clothing line, and I got fired from my business by partnering with investors. They fired me from my own company, and I ended up on an airbed above my retail store that I had purchased out of the deal before they fired me.
Wow.
And that moment made me realize that God was working in my favor the whole time, right? And I did not realize it until after I was off the airbed in my own first home, headed on a flight to China to purchase a factory in China. Yeah.
Wow.
At 30-something years old, right? It was not until that literally I felt like God smacked me across my head and was like, hold on.
Yeah.
This is your story.
Yeah.
I let those people fire you so you could get closer to me, and I could show you who put you back on top, not those people.
So good.
Right?
Yeah.
And that allowed me to understand my power. It allowed me to understand everything that I've been through. And if I could get through the worst of times, which was on that airbed every single night crying,
Right.
then what's losing staff? What's going through bad contracts? What's anything else, right?
Yeah.
Like, if I know that God has already figured it out for me, why would I ever be stressed or frustrated about what I'm going through in the current time?
Yeah.
Because on that airbed, I was so stressed and depressed and wanted to give up, thinking I built this big business and I partnered with these guys and I gave my baby away and they took it, and like, why would I do that? And it was like God was just showing you that everything would come full circle.
That's
and
right.
you would have no one else to thank but him.
That's right.
Like, you would have no one else. Like, when I think of my story, I signed with this company. In 6 months I got fired, right? After that, I slept on the airbed for 6 months. Okay, I started a marketing agency. That marketing agency 4 years later went on to make $16 million.
Girl,
right? $16 million.
So that would have never happened.
That would have never happened if, one, I didn't believe in the power of my own gift.
Right.
My own gift was marketing and branding from the beginning.
Yes.
Which is why I had a clothing company, you know? And then, okay, I get off this airbed. I have this home now. I bought my company back, and I'm like, what do I do now? I have to find a manufacturer that can produce so that I can get all of my clients back in the clothing retail business, because now they want net terms. I can't produce in the U.S. with net terms. So I go to China. I step out on faith, right? When I was partnered with these guys, they came to me and said, hey, we want to open your own factory in China. We need $30K. I'm like, okay, you guys are my partners. I'm trusting you.
Yeah.
I give them $30K. Right? That I've never walked into that factory. I never even knew that factory, if it existed or if it didn't exist. Wow, right? And so I'm like, if I can give strangers essentially $30,000 to open up a factory in China that I never seen, never signed a lease for, never knew about, that they essentially, you know, owned, or we essentially owned, that I never seen, never heard of after I got fired, why wouldn't I go to China and figure it out myself? So I literally went to China, figured it out myself.
Oh my gosh.
Came back, scaled that business, sold that business. So it showed me that God will make you realize who's really in charge.
Yep.
Right?
He puts you in your place.
Yeah.
I say you can either be broken or broken open.
Yeah.
And it's like, what's it gonna be, honey?
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
And it's like, and then you realize, like, I had to let those people fall off. Yeah. Because those people probably would have never let you, they would have bottlenecked you from becoming who you're supposed to become. Like, it all makes sense when you look back.
Yes. And now I think I heard this from somewhere, and it always like played into my mind, because I think as you go up, people will drop off, right?
100%.
Like, and it be the people that you think are the closest, are the, like, you're like, this, we're gonna make
Ride or die.
Yes.
Work together forever. Yes. And then you're like, what did you do? What?
Yes.
Yeah, I know.
And you're like, oh my God, I'm about to cross another barrier in life, and I want you with me, and they just fall off, right? And I think when we think about success, it's like a rocket ship. To go to the next stratosphere, parts of the rocket fall off, and to enter into the next stratosphere. So by the time it gets into space, do you know it's like a small,
teeny little teener.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So that's what success
So
is.
good.
Yeah, like
so
when you going up, people are gonna drop off, and that next group of people you think are gonna be there for the next ride, by the time you get to the top, you're like, wait, I have to rebuild this thing again? Yeah. That's beautiful. Do you feel like that happened to you?
Yes. It's continuing to happen. It's like every step of the way. But now I know, you know what I mean? And there, don't get me wrong, friends. Like, there's time where it hurts. Like, you're like, wait, like if you really loved me, you would want me to continue to progress and follow the call that's on my life, just like I bless you and I want you to follow the call that's on yours. But insecurity is very loud sometimes, and you know, people like you at a certain level, and then when you start going a different way, if it makes them uncomfortable, it makes them realize what they're not living, whether it's conscious or subconscious. So I have experienced it time and time again.
Wow.
Like, you know, and again, it's like, as you grow, there's different things, different business opportunities, different priorities. As you grow in your walk with God, He speaks to you differently, and you know, and it's like, as long as I'm pleasing Him and doing that, like, I'm like, listen, everybody fall off if you're supposed to fall off.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm just okay with that now, and I can actually feel it. Like, I can feel when someone is really about it or they're not. You know, and I don't, you know,
Me too.
We don't have time for the fake stuff. Like, we just don't.
Absolutely.
Our calling is too great, and you know, so I don't even focus on that so much anymore. I'm just like focused on the mission and on a couple people that really love me for me, and like, let's go.
Yes. So you talked about, I want to go back a little bit. You talked about your partner in life, right? And he was like, can you let me love you? How many times do women, right, in powerful situations, or we get to a point in life where we feel like I've built this, or I've done this, right?
Yeah.
And then you're almost scared to allow that person to love you. How did you break down that barrier?
You know, I was recently talking to a group of powerful women about this, because they see my relationship with Jake and they're like, geez, it's so beautiful to see you be on stage, do this, do that. You're so powerful. But then you go way more into your feminine. And I was explaining to them, listen, like, I had to really work on this. Think about what we were modeled. Like, I was modeled by a single mom who did everything herself, so she had to play in every role. I stepped into a business role. Oftentimes, I'm the only woman speaker. Next weekend, I'm the only woman speaker. Like, you know, and so there is that, you know, how do I do that? And, you know, when I met, first of all, I had to figure out what kind of partner I wanted in life. And I was single for a while, a good while, like years, because I wasn't going to settle. But I had to get really clear. And so I went to the beach on January 1st, 2019. And actually 2020, and I wrote out what I wanted in a man, and I circled the top 5 things. I'm like, I will not settle. He needs to lead me. I don't care how strong I am, how intelligent I am, I want to be led. Because if I have to babysit him or be his mom, there's gonna be no polarity. I'm not gonna be attracted to him. You know, he's gotta love God, because I think of it like, you know, a triangle, and God is up here at the point, and like, he's got to be here, I got to be here, and we can grow together. Otherwise, again, the value thing, the trust thing, all that. And so I wrote out these attributes, and I ended up meeting Jake 1 month after, and he was speaking at an event, and it was his very first speaking event, and I didn't know any of it. I was dropping off products for a friend, so that he could have it at his event. I didn't know him though, and I saw him speak, and it's like my whole nervous system shifted when I was with him, because he was more powerful than me, and I mean that in a beautiful way. Like, he just held his own, which I was so used to being the dominating woman in everything. So my nervous system was like, what is going on here? And in my brain didn't even register. Like, I was like, do I like him? Do I not? You know, but it was an ongoing process of letting go. But really, you know, I had to realize, like, oh my gosh, there were so many moments where he's like, I'm trying to serve you. I'm trying to love you. I'm trying to take care. He's like, let me. And because of how strong he is, he was able to not take my BS, which literally that was number 3 on my list. Like, will handle my BS, because I can, you know, be a little, you know what I mean? Like, it's my way or the highway.
That's my husband.
Yeah,
Totally.
And so he won't take my crap. And so what I mean by that is he'll call me out. He'll call me out. He makes me better. Yeah. I did a speaking gig a few weeks back, and he's like, Emily, you got it. It was great. You touched lives, but here's where you could be better.
Yeah.
Like, he calls me out.
Yes.
And I do the same for him.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
It's so funny. Those moments that are most memorable to us are the moments where I'm like, did he really say that?
I know,
but it changes your life, right? It changes your life.
I know.
I remember when I got fired from my company, and we were sitting at dinner, and I was like, babe, they stole my company, they stole my company, they stole my company. And he literally like got straight faced and like hit the table. My husband is very chill. He's very relaxed. He kind of like hit the table and was like, they didn't steal your company. You signed it to them. You signed. He was like, I told you that you shouldn't rush into the deal, but you were ready to let it go. You were ready. You told me that even if things didn't go right, you would use the money to start something else. And he was like, so stop. It drives me crazy every time you say someone stole your company. They did it. They didn't break into your house. They didn't break into your office, steal your trademark. You signed it over to them.
Yeah.
And like, that was the harsh reality that I needed to hear to get myself together and take accountability for not feeling like I was worth what I negotiated. Right. And now I realize like you're only as good as what you negotiate. That's right. So you need a man, like as strong as we are, we need someone that is going to tell us like straightforward.
100%. But then you as a strong woman have to be able to allow it, accept it, which is like a constant dialogue that I still have today, even as Miss Independent, like I still have to go through it, which is where the communication thing comes into play so big. Like, we're constantly telling each other, here's what I need, just like we have business meetings, we have relationship meetings.
Same.
Yeah.
Same.
And it just really, really helps.
Yes, it definitely helps. Okay. So I know we've been going a while. I've learned so much, and this interview has literally helped me in so many ways, and I hope it helps all of the audience as well. Okay, a couple of things, right? The name of the podcast is The Secret Recipe. What is your secret recipe to success?
Wow, first of all, I love this. Gosh, my secret recipe is really listening to the voice of God other than my own. And here's what I mean by that. We're always on our phone. I'm guilty. I'm always on Instagram. I'm always doing deals. I'm always this, that, and the other. And it's like creativity is the new commodity. And we all have creative elements inside of us, whether it's intellect, things we need to create, do, think about, birth, whatever. And so I've really been good at being alone almost every day. And so I need to go back. I mean, if you look at Jesus Christ, like he had to go back and like be alone. And that's where I find my greatness. That's where I find my peace. That's where I restore my soul. And I really try not to become like the rest of the world. Yeah. And if I don't do that and have that time, I don't feel like I'm as powerful. I don't feel like I give. I feel like it becomes all about Emily and not about others. Yeah. And I don't like that. And so that is truly my secret recipe is seek refuge, spend time with God, because that's where my confidence comes from, my ideas come from. That's where all my greatness comes from. Wow. Yeah.
And you've done an amazing job building teams as well. What is the secret recipe to building a successful team? Yeah. Because that's all I hear every day is I have a business, I have an idea, but I can't get people to align with me on the idea to make it greater.
Yeah. Well, first of all, everything rises and falls on leadership. So I take radical responsibility for everything. Yes. And it's like, even if it's not my fault, it's my fault. Yep. That's just how it goes. However, I believe like you're only as good as your team. And, I train a lot on the it factor, and part of your it factor is your personality. It's innate. So your personality is a rainbow. Everybody has different strengths. We could be more red personality, more strong, opinionated. You could be blue, which is more emotional, like Oprah was a blue.
Yeah.
You could be yellow, where it's like you're the life of the party, you're fun, you bring the fun of it. And so the key for me has been is identifying people's personalities and then allowing them to play at their strength and giving them a role of responsibility where they can feel like they add value to the whole mix of people. And then for me, I always just love to be a king or queen maker. So I don't want you to need me forever.
Yep.
I want to build you up. I want to equip you, and then poof, out of the nest. And so that's my biggest thing with growing teams is like, that's how we multiply leaders.
Yeah.
We first have to identify who's the potential leader, and if we want to multiply the leaders, it's like, then go work with a few people and let them spread. And that's really what I've done.
Yes. Well, you've done an amazing job.
Thank you.
What is one book that has changed your life that others should read?
Oh my goodness, so many. For me, just because I think it was my first book, and especially when I didn't believe I could make money, and it's like where I came from, all that. I read Secrets of a Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker, and it just blew my mind. Like that helped me like increase my lids straight away. And it's actually one of those books that I like to read once a year because you're gonna get something every time.
Yeah.
And I really don't know if I didn't read that, I don't know. I don't think I would have gone as fast because that was a definite barrier for me when it came to business.
Yes. So how can people find you?
Yeah. Instagram.
Okay.
It's Emily on Instagram. It's Emily.com. And then my show's called The ITfactor Show. Yeah.
Which I'm going to be on, you guys.
Yes, she is.
I'm super excited. Thank you, Emily,
Yeah, thank
so much for being on this episode of The Secret Recipe. And I hope you are tuning in to really find your secret recipe to success. It's different for all of us. Thanks, guys.